welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
I'm your barely a gamer host, Madelyn.
I'm your super gamer host, Emma.
Super gamer. And thanks for tuning into the show. It's our 6-week side quest where we recap for you. We download our save data right into your eardrums of what we've been playing these past 6 weeks.
Yep, that's what we do.
It sure is mid-July now.
It is, yeah.
6 weeks have passed.
Yeah.
It's been a game in 6 weeks. Except
well, not
for
me,
you. It hasn't. It's gonna be a big Emma week here on the 6-week side quest.
Madelyn's been busy with, like, her real life, you know?
It's just like, at the beginning of the last one, I had just recovered from COVID, which you would think would mean that I had, like, played a lot of games, but I hadn't.
Yeah.
And so then I was catching up from that, and then I was out of town, and then I was out of town unexpectedly again, and then I had to play the theater, the game, in a real life.
Mm-hmm.
So I have some games to talk about, but we're all just going to really enjoy Emma's gaming updates.
All right. I love enjoying my own updates.
Emma's gaming updates are better than mine usually.
That's
anyway.
not true.
Mine are usually like, I hear you. Like, and
there is a lot of Curio, that's true, but
not recently. See, that is one update, is that I've not played that much more Judgment. So but you kick it off by all means.
Okay, well, I mean, we'll kick it off with my regularly scheduled updates. I played some more Cold Steel 4. Not very much of it, because I had a lot of games to play this past 6 weeks, and it got sort of put by the wayside. I've come to accept that I'm probably not going to finish Cold Steel 4 this year.
This year?
I really only play it once a week at best, and I like the pace I'm playing it, right? It's fine with me. I don't really feel compelled to play it more. Probably around, like, winter time, I'll do, like, a week of it, like, try to push it, but I don't really feel like playing it faster, and, oh my god, we still don't have Reen. I know I said Reen was imminent last time, I think, but he's still imminent. He's become no more or less imminent since last time.
Are you disappointed by that? Aren't you a noted Reen hater?
I don't hate Reen. The meme that's like the person like putting all the photos on their wall that's like, I hate. That's me and Reen.
Yeah.
I hate Reen. That sort of hatred for Reen.
Oh, you're the like, thank you for making not you this game great.
Yeah.
Meme.
That too. Yeah, that one too. That works.
You're the Reen appears and you're like, I don't want to play with you anymore.
But I care about him enough to make memes about how I don't like him. That's the sort of relationship we
I meant hater more in the sense of hater, not hater.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like hanging out with the kids, obviously. But I think that once Reen comes back, it'll be like, we're finally in the thick of things, you know? So I still feel like I'm in sort of the prologue right now, which I've been playing this game for like 8 months, so that's something.
Is that real? Have you really been playing this game for 8 months?
Well, I mean, I started it last year, but then like right before I left for like I wasn't with my system. And I really, like I said, I only play it like once a week, so.
I'm just feeling like my life is slipping through my fingers that we've been playing Cold Steel for 8 months, because I really felt like it was like, oh, only recently Emma started to have Cold Steel updates again.
No, this whole year I've had
it.
So that's Cold Steel. I'll hopefully get back to playing it more on schedule this next 6 weeks, so maybe Reen will be back next update, so look forward to that. Although I'm also leaving my system behind for a couple of weeks coming up, so maybe that's a hopeful sentiment.
You'll just see Reen walking around. AR Reen.
My other regular update, near reincarnation. There was another new chapter just this past week. So I'm now switched to the girl, because there's boy and girl in this one, and you choose which one to play first, and then it transitions you to the next one. But it's not... But it's set up like she's waking up in the cage for the first time. But I know conceptually that some people started with her in chapter 1, where she would wake up in the cage the first time, which, you know, is the same, but the maps must be different. And, of course, the character's, like, story that she's going through is different, because there's a new character in this chapter. So theoretically, we've found out that the boy and girl, Yuzuki and Hina, right? Yuzuki and Hina, sun and moon.
I thought you said Tina for a minute, and I was like, that's an interesting juxtaposition of names.
Are ostensibly brother and sister who went to live with different parents after their divorce.
You're telling me this has been a Parent Trap game all along?
No, they had a very bad divorce, so It's not a Parent Trap game. But it seems like... I'm thinking my two theories at the moment is either there's some sort of, like, body swapping going on, based on, like, different things that it's set up. Like, it started this thing of, like, if your other self wishes for something, on, like, the mysterious phone that introduces each chapter. And also, Hina seemed to remember the previous chapter's, like, character story, because she showed up in this character story, which she shouldn't, theoretically. Or their wishes are, like, fundamentally incompatible, because she's repairing the sun to get a wish, he's repairing the moon to get a wish. So it's possible that, like, the wishes they're doing is setting the other character back in, like, this endless cycle of repairing the moon and repairing the sun and trying to wish for things, but their wishes, like, cancel each other out. So those are my two theories for what's going on at the moment. It's interesting. I don't know, it's good. I'm enjoying the game still.
What is the timeline for story progression in this game? Does that make sense? Like, do you expect that you will get that answer within the next year, within the next 3 years?
I'm thinking there's only 2 more chapters left of this arc. But the chapters have been coming out, like, every month to 2 months lately. So I think based on the schedule, it should be done with this arc by the end of this year. It's live, where the international version is synchronized with Japan now, when it was behind before, just with this most recent chapter. So I don't know if that will change how the updates go, but because this is the second story arc in the game.
Right. I was just wondering, as someone who has really never played an ongoing, updating mobile game, of, like, what's the timeline of story answers?
Yeah.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
So it's my turn.
Yeah.
Right? All right, we'll do the, like, boring mea culpa one first. So I was like, I'll write down my games. Surely I've played more games than this. And part of the reason I haven't played more games than this is that in the 6 weeks, I did not play a single podcast game.
Yeah.
Because I had already played Bastion. It was Earthworm Jim and, like, Returnal together or something, right?
Yeah, you watched Earthworm Jim.
Right. And, like, there was no way for me to play either of those until somebody gifts me a PS5, or I successfully buy the 11 PS5s, if you listened last week. But and then I gave myself last week off, which I think is one of the first ones this year that I just was like, I don't have time to do this.
Yeah, I think so.
I'll also admit, like, I probably could have done that one, but it didn't occur to me that Arkham would be, like, available, which was stupid. I was like, oh, it's only $20, like, an hour before the show. And I almost did it. I thought about doing it. I was like, maybe I can play the first half an hour. And I was like, no, Madelyn, don't be dumb. Just watch some of it. It's fine. So that's part of why it's, like, nice and short this time. is we're entering the PS5 era of new games on the podcast, and I've just not entered my PS5 era here yet, unfortunately.
She's not hip and happening like me with my PS5 and my Xbox Series S.
Emma is pampered.
Pampered by myself.
Yeah. Still. Can you do the PS5 sideways?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
It comes with like a stand that can go either sideways.
I know
or
yours
vertical.
is an art piece.
Yeah. I don't have anywhere to put it horizontally, really. So.
Right.
It's too large.
Anyway. I am seriously starting to think about looking for one, but I probably need to wait until... Well, that'll be Black Friday deals, right?
I don't know, Mal.
Those will be easy to get, right?
Surely those will be. If they are, I'm sure they will be super easy to get and super available.
Yeah. Because the PS5 is normally super available, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I in the 6 weeks I played a little bit of Judgment. I don't really have that much to report because all I did was kind of bop around and really advance.
That is what these games are for, partially. Bopping around.
Yeah. Still miss karaoke. We'll, as usual, probably get like here's how I play Judgment thing. I try to let enemies punch me a little bit in fights so that I can go eat food.
Isn't there a way to get bottomless stomach in that?
Oh, it costs like a bajillion points though. So I'll get there eventually, but right now it's like I need to be like saving my points for other things. I don't know. But yeah, that's my like little tidbit of how I play that game is I don't ever go for 100% completion, but I do still like the rush of being like, you ate a new food.
Yeah.
You finished, Cafe Alps or whatever. And I did with Click Like Boyfriend's help pass the coffee test.
Good.
Although I feel like I got an easier one. There is a side quest where the guy wants you to, like, he explains a bunch of different types of coffee to you, and you get a tasting of one, and you're like, the flavor notes. And you have to decide which type of coffee it is. This is a game about gangsters, to be clear.
Well, less so.
Still, really, though. Like, it can pretend that it's, like, about a renegade lawyer, and, like, yes. But still the whole story.
Yeah.
It's the same. Like, the story is actually not that different.
Yeah.
It's nice that he's a lawyer, but...
Well, a private detective, I guess, now.
I'm sorry, you're right. He's not a lawyer anymore. Sorry. My B.
He still uses his badge, so it's fine.
He's a lawyer. Anyway. But, like, there's no reason, right? Like, they did this. Same story. Could have been the same story with Kiryu, probably. He's not smart enough, but that's okay. Anyway, yeah, so I passed the coffee test, although I feel like I got an easier coffee prompt than I did the first time, probably because the game was like, you're stupid.
Probably.
So that'll be my mini judge. I'll talk about games that I really actually played next time it's my turn, but wanted to get the, like, I didn't play any games, I didn't play Judgment, even though I'm, like, really feeling like they've got to announce another game soon.
Yeah.
Which is bad.
I mean, they did just release the DLC for Judgment, Lost Judgment.
I know, but that even more means that, like... I mean, I know that they aren't really on an annual release schedule anymore, but they are sort of on, like, a biannual release schedule there, at least. So I guess Lost Judgment didn't come out that long ago, but, like...
Maybe Tokyo Game Show, they'll announce stuff new. The Yakuza 8, I assume.
Well, I'm rooting for remasters of the historic ones.
Oh, that would be fun, too, yeah.
Because those ones, it can be like, oh, okay, I don't have to play, like, 3 more games to get to. Or both. But back to Emma. That's my boring update. Get ready for more. Get excited for my very exciting
It was very exciting. Coffee, you know?
Heck yeah.
I finished Final Fantasy 13.
Woo!
It's fine. It's a fine game.
Woo!
It's not like the worst game ever made. It's not like a hidden gem in the rough. It's just fine. I liked the first half a lot more than the second half. The first half was very like interpersonal drama and relationships. I think I talked about that last time. It's like a drama series where they happen to fight things also. And then the second half transitions more into like we've got to save the world, and it doesn't really work. Primarily because something I was noticing towards the end that was like, these cutscenes like don't feel that like weird in like a Final Fantasy sense. Like if you plopped the Final Fantasy 13 story into like a game that is set up like a normal Final Fantasy, I think it would be good, maybe even a great game. Like it's because like they're like trying to save the world at the end, but partially because of the way the game is written and structured, and partially I think because just Square Enix struggled going into the PS3, Xbox 360 era. But like there's no towns, right? You don't walk around towns and talk to NPCs and do like actual side quests, right? Like any towns you're in is still like a straight shot through them while you're being like chased by something. There's no like exploring the world. So when they're like, we want to save Cocoon, I'm like, what? I still don't understand like how Cocoon is set up, what it looks like, how people live here. I know nothing about Cocoon, so I don't feel very connected to like wanting to save it, you know? It's just that there's a lot of, like, lore and stuff going on, which is fine when it's, like, backdrop dressing in, like, the first half, but when it starts to come to the focus, you notice that, like, there is no breathing room where the game, like, let you explore the society and understand how it worked like you would in other Final Fantasies. Mm-hmm. It's just a little bit, like, it's just hard to get into it, because you're like, well... I still don't really know where I am. So there's a lot of connection to the characters, I think, but literally no connection to, like, the places, which is why the first half works and the second half doesn't. I mean, I enjoyed it enough that I will probably continue on to 13.2 at some point. Probably not soon, but maybe at the end of the year or next year or something like that. Give that a shot.
I'm really already looking toward the end of the year. Not every other sentence. I was about to say every other sentence. Like, every 5 minutes you're like, maybe by the end of the year. Maybe at the end of the year.
I plan out my games...
It's February. Stop.
I plan out my games pretty meticulously these days, so that's the only reason why.
I'm, like, over here like, oh, maybe I'll make it to August.
You'll make it to August. You'll be fine.
14 more days.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, it was fine. That's really... I totally understand people who, like, are big Final Fantasy fans, you know, going into it, like, with their expectations, like, sky high, why it would seem, like, a lot worse to them. But it's fine. It's a perfectly middle game.
Do you find, though... I was just talking with someone about this, about seeing theater performances, and I think that you will agree with this take, assuming that your tastes have not changed too much since high school, that, like, in theater performances, I enjoy obviously seeing very good shows, and I enjoy seeing very bad shows, and it's mediocre shows that are kind of like the worst, in a weird way. Do you feel the same way about games?
I mean, yes and no. I like seeing things that are interesting.
Right.
I guess. I feel like Final Fantasy 13 had enough that was interesting to sort of carry it. Except by, like, the very end. And a lot of that was... it has... The way its combat system works is very fun for a while until, like, every enemy encounter is just, like, 5 minutes long. Because they really get, like, damage spongy at the end. And, like, if you... It's... People say it's, like, mindless. For me, it's actually, like, I have to be so attentive to it, or else I will be murdered. That it becomes exhausting to do, like, just normal encounters. But you do sort of have to grind near the end to be able to beat the bosses. So at the very end, I was like, oh, this is the worst game.
Well, it's time for the games you didn't think were going to make a comeback portion of my gaming 6 weeks. So, we had various, like, dad and our younger sisters were here for a day in June, and Josh's family, my boyfriend's family, were here, for a day or so last month too. And so, like, all of these people, they're gaming people, and so, like, it was hot, we were hanging out inside and played some games. And the difference in the games that each of these families enjoyed playing was interesting and striking. So, with the little girls, the big hit was WarioWare Get It Together.
All right.
Which, bet you didn't think that one was coming back, folks, after I aggressively weaned myself off of it in, like, this fall, winter. But still a fun game. And a fun one, like an unexpectedly fun one, I think, to play with. I mean, the younger sisters now are old enough that they are real gamers and can, like, really play games.
Yeah.
But, like, it surprised me, like, oh, okay, like, this is a game where you can kind of carry someone if you're pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And obviously, my boyfriend and I played, like, maybe too much of this game for a time back this fall. And so it was like, oh, okay, like, it can still be fun even when you're playing with someone who doesn't really know exactly what's going on yet.
Well, it can be single player, right?
Yeah. That said, the 4-person mini games are mostly very bad. That is what I rediscovered playing that game with them. But the 4-person games, they don't let you do, like, the normal WarioWare game experience with 4. It's only with 2. But you can play all of these, like, silly other games, like, attacking each other, or this one where it's like you're working for Wario, maybe, or someone, and you have to, like, get contracts as you go along.
Interesting.
Not really very interesting, to be honest. I think every time that I have played that game, both when we tried it this fall and this time, it's been like you just want to die at the end. You're not literally
realistic.
Like, maybe, yeah, it's like the daily grind. I think it is called the daily grind, now that I say it. The daily grind really gets to you. So, fortunately for me, I did not allow this to spiral into, like, a resurgence of WarioWare in my life.
Good.
Which I think is for the best. But it did make me think about, I'm not glad that my PlayStation wiped all of the save data, because I do feel like it's stunted my gaming experience over these past 3 months or so since that happened. But during this time of, like, stress and busyness in my life, it is probably good that all of my Binding of Isaac stuff was wiped.
That's fair.
Because it's like, I don't really want to start from the beginning, and I think having that game around would have been a bad crutch for me. Meanwhile, my boyfriend's family did not care for WarioWare at all.
I see.
So it's not for Wario is not for everyone.
That's true.
An acquired taste. Anyway, I'll continue my family report next, but back to you.
All right. I also started and finished this one. The Somnium Files Nirvana Initiative, or I-Me, or I-Too. Do you get it?
I get it.
It's very funny.
Yeah.
So it's a Kotaro Uchikoshi game, which we've talked about 999 on the podcast before. I played the first, there's the Somnium Files, was the first game, which I played when it came out 2 years ago now, I think. And it's just like, it's like a visual novel adventure game where you play as, like, a sinker, who is someone who can use this device called the Sync Machine, where you go into like a sleeping subject's head and can explore their dreams to sort of figure out information that they might be hiding from you, or information they might have forgotten, or just to get like the truth from them, from like their unconscious mind, essentially. So it's split between like point and click, like you're in first person, you look at things, and Somnium, where you like run around as your AI ball, so your eye that happens to have a personality in it, like interacting with different parts of the dream world and trying to make progress through all of their mental locks to get to like the truth that you're looking for. So I.N.E. is a little bit interesting in that it seems to have been made on the like promise that it would be accessible for new players too. In terms of like I think I did well, but not like set the world on fire well. So if they were just pulling from an audience of people who had only played that, maybe they wouldn't have been able to like show that it was worth it, right? So there's actually like a spoiler toggle question at the very beginning that asks if you've played the first game and if they can give you spoilers for the first game throughout the rest of the game.
In a sequel. That's wild.
Yeah. It's sort of not quite the best of both worlds, I'd say, because it's still, like, they can reference the first game with the spoiler toggle on, but they can't change the whole thing, right? Mm-hmm. So there are parts that are clearly nonsensical with the first game, or just ways that it feels like characters have regressed a little bit from their progress in the first game. Stuff like that was a little bit bothersome, but I could put it aside. So I really liked the first game, despite it had stuff I didn't like. But overall, I thought it was like a very cool evolution of Uchikoshi's like style. It felt very sincere and like character focused. And I really liked the like Somnium function and idea in that. But this game is, I feel like this is just a pattern for me a little bit of like, I go from a game I really liked the first one, and then the second one is like way more expansive and like plot focused, and so I come out of it feeling mixed a little bit. Yeah. Like it happened with Neo Twoe, which that one I liked the most out of all the examples. Lost Judgment is another example a little bit, I think, which of course I liked the least. And I.N.E. falls somewhere in the middle of being like, I like this, but, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna spoil it because it came out recently and came out really recently in Europe because it was delayed for a little bit due to physical copy production due to certain wars that are happening in the area.
Yikes.
So the whole game was delayed over there. But Uchikoshi always, in pretty much all of his games that I know of, it has like some sort of like structural twist that uses the way that the game is presented to sort of surprise the player with new information, right? We talked about with 999, it uses either like the dual screen of the DS or the novel adventure modes of the Steam release to sort of hide a plot twist in there. With the sequel to that, Virtue's Last Reward, the fact that your character's not voiced and you have a first-person perspective is used to hide a sort of twist. I has a bit of a twist with like it has branching timelines, and so that sort of plays into it. But previously, and I.N.E. has something like that too, which I won't go into, but I found that in previous games, like that structural twist is for the player and the characters, right? Like the way it's presented makes it surprising to the players, but it's still something that's happening in the game and is of relevance to the characters in the game. The big structural twist in I.N.E. has nothing to do with the characters. It's fully for the player. And so I found it a little bit underwhelming, or pointless, maybe, is the better way to put it.
Right. A twist for the sake of having a twist.
Yeah. Like, I get what it's trying to do, but I always found that in previous twists, like I said, it sort of found the best of both worlds, right? Of being relevant to the characters while also surprising the player. And in this one, it's just to... If you took this twist out, things would be very straightforward in this mystery. And so it sort of feels like it's just trying to make this mystery more confusing for the player, and that's it.
I gotcha.
Additionally, the way that this twist works makes it so that all the characters are sort of stagnant, I guess. So it's split between, you play as Ryuki, who's a new character, going through the case 6 years ago, and Mizuki, a returning character, going through the case as it returns 6 years in the future. But you would not know this by, like, looking at most of the characters. You can tell by what age Mizuki is, but nobody's changed in any sort of, like, meaningful way. They're talking about the same issues that they had 6 years ago in the present, and it's just a little bit like this sort of... I'm getting too close to it now, but there's just... It feels like there's a lot of stuff that is written and designed a certain way to hide this twist that sort of weakens a lot of the characters in hindsight for me. It'd be interesting to go back and replay it and sort of think about it that way, but yeah. You can also tell that a lot of people found the Somniums in the first game too hard, like non-logical, right? Because it's dreams, and so it didn't really follow like a logical progression sometimes. And I found these ones to take it too far in the other direction, and they were very linear and easy to figure out, and sort of mechanic based instead of character focused like the first games were. It's still a very fun game. I like the new characters. I like the plot. I think parts of it are very cool. Just a lot of conflicting feelings on it overall. When I was hoping I would really like it, came out a little bit disappointed. That's Aini. Sorry, I talked about that one for a while.
Several times in talking about it, you said something like, I did pretty well, but not great the first time.
And that's confusing, yeah.
It took me a minute. I was like, are there like different, like, is there like a good ending? And are you saying you got the medium ending? Like, what happened? Anyway.
These games do have a lot of different endings, but they all go to like the true ending. So there's not, It's not like, yeah.
Well, all I have left for you all listeners is 2 different doses of Pokemon. So,
all right, tell us about Pokemon.
So, the other surprise return for family games was Pokemon Snap.
Ooh.
Which I had not. There were like these new levels that came out, like honestly maybe last summer, I don't know, or maybe it was the fall that I hadn't played. And wow, Click My Boyfriend's family got really into Pokemon Snap. His mom and his sister really into it. Shocking. Not really, it's an approachable game, but it was just like, I just can't predict. The games his mom loves are Katamari Damacy and Pokemon Snap.
Collecting?
Maybe collecting. Still figuring it out. Anyway, Pokemon Snap is fun. It's sort of like, I think I played too much of it in a row for a week or two there when we got it for the show. And I was like, I don't know, but it's fun. It's a fun game. I did watch, because I did a run at GDQ, like a speed run of the original Pokemon Snap. And I will say, like, obviously that's a little biased because that runner knows exactly how to get, like, the fun and interesting pictures, like, right away. But I will say that, like, I do feel like maybe that game, because it's the original, because it's a little shorter and more focused, maybe has some more interesting Pokemon, or like more clear how to trigger the interesting Pokemon interactions, perhaps. But yeah, Pokemon Snap like was good to return to. It was like soothing in that like high score kind of way. I really feel like, I'm gonna talk about RCS in a little bit. In similar ways, the like, points go up part of my brain really likes those. I still hate the professor in Pokemon Snap. All he cares about is the Pokemon beak. That's all that matters. Nothing about, and like I can't ever figure out, like the pose score is mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Sometimes it's like I feel like it's the exact same pose and he's like, "Oh, what a fantastic interesting pose." And sometimes he's like, "It's a Pokemon." So, I'm sure that is what photographers are like. And so like maybe that's just how it is, right? But I still feel like that professor needs to cool it a little bit. Needs to be okay with me being like, and like it's like sometimes the other Pokemon really count and sometimes they don't. I still find the game very fun, but like also like quite frustrating because the points don't always make sense. But I do like they're not new levels anymore, but they were new to me. The new to me levels are fun and good. We found some fun Pokemon stuff in those. I still refuse to do any editing of my pictures because I just don't. All I want to do is keep taking higher score pictures, take more pictures.
Number go up.
Clickway Boyfriend always runs out of film before the end of the course. Which just feels like it shouldn't be something. I mean, I guess we're taking pictures on like a real camera and good for us. But it feels like it could be digital and you could have endless exposures, really. I know it's because they have like a course score, and so like your course score could just be unlimited if you just took tons and tons and tons of pictures. So I get it. But
yeah, it does. You could add like an unlimited mode, I guess, if you want. But it does feel like if you did have unlimited pictures, you could just be spamming it, and like you would suddenly get everything that you needed.
Except you wouldn't, because you have to like throw certain things and trigger certain things.
Sure, but you can throw certain things and then spam it,
Well, that's still what Clicky does. To be fair, that is how Clicky Boyfriend and I take photos in real life.
Yeah.
Like whenever we're like taking a photo of someone or of one of us, it's like, oh, I took 30.
Yeah. That is real. It's
the best way to do it. And I can't believe that the professor in that game doesn't understand that that's the best way to do it, but it's fine. Pokemon Snap has a lot of content in terms of like all of the special quests and things that you can trigger. And while I enjoy this game, I cannot imagine ever getting so into it as to really chase down all of those quests. There's just so many.
Yeah.
But it'll now be one that's sort of like because I have RCS, it's fallen more to the wayside, so I think that's scratching a similar itch. But it's a little, I need to like stop referring to all games as dangerous. Games are fun. It's fun to spend time playing games. But it's a little dangerous to know that Pokemon Snap is fun and that you could just pick it up for a little while and play it.
It's only dangerous when you're busy.
Well, when you're busy is a fun thing to say, as if there's an alternative. But yeah, if you haven't picked up Pokemon Snap yet, I would recommend it. And if you have the fancy Nintendo expansion pack, you can play the original one, and that one looked fun too. A little blockier, but still looked fun. Fire Emblem.
I was going to save that for last.
Oh, actually. Okay. Never mind.
Game I was hoping to finish before this, but I did not quite manage it. It's Shin Megami Tensei 4, which I talked about last time. I'm at the point where I can go to the end, but I think I probably need to do a little bit of side stuff to make sure my level's high enough and I have good enough demons in my party. So I'm probably going to do couple of side quests before I move on to the ending. Did the chaos route. I knew this going in, right, that Shin Megami Tensei does this, but man, Law and Chaos just take them to, like, the full extreme, you know? You're like, I think we should change society a little. And the game is like, you mean you want to murder? You mean you want to do lots of murder? You want to murder? It's like, I guess so.
I guess I do.
You mean you want everybody to die in the fire? Yeah, sure. Okay. It's just very funny. I don't know. I mean, I know that Law is probably something similar. That's like, oh, you want peace? That mean you want to murder? And neutral is supposed to be like the good one because it's hard to get. But I'm fine. I'm fine with chaos. Satan's with me now. Just hanging out with him.
Of course.
Mm-hmm. It's just my companion. Really funny looking purple guy in a robe.
Nice.
I don't like the design for him. I don't know why they settled on it, but it's fine. It's just like a very, very, very like bald, purple, dry skinned looking big brain type guy.
Yeah.
I'm still enjoying it. I feel like they did a lot of setup with like your samurai society, Mikado at the start that sort of ends up not really meaning much. One of my Isabeau, who's one of like my samurai brethren, came to like stop me here right as the last part I played, and she's like, "You'll really kill one of your fellows?" I'm like, "I haven't seen you for 20 hours, Isabeau. I don't." I don't know if you mean that much to me, to be perfectly honest. So you get sort of stuck down in Tokyo doing Tokyo things, which I imagine is pretty similar to how the other ones go, but This one bothered to create a setup, which I don't really know what the purpose of that was at this point. I mean, I guess we're going to invade Mikado now. That's like the end part of this, is tearing down them and stopping them from killing my friend the devil, I guess. But it still feels like they set up a lot and like they could have done more with it, but it's fine. I do think if it wasn't stuck on the 3DS and like someone was interested in trying the Shin Megami Tensei series, I think this would be a good one to start with because it has all that set up and you can save anywhere, and it's just generally friendlier, I think, than 3 or 5, which are the other readily available ones. So it's pretty chill, you know, for a game where, you know, my friend Walter sacrificed himself. Is it martyrdom if it's for the devil? Can you call it martyrdom?
I think it's the idea. The idea counts. Sure.
He martyred himself to, you know, become the host for my new friend Lucifer, who's hanging out with me now. But it's super chill, you know. It's a chill game, just hanging out, catching demons, fusing demons, doing side quests. I'm surprised by how much I sort of enjoyed like the pace of it, I guess. It's very like easy to get into and just like get some stuff done, check some stuff off your list. It is, I mean, even though it doesn't like come up much, you are usually traveling with someone rather than being by yourself. So you're with Isabeau or Walter or Jonathan or a number of them throughout the whole thing. And something about that makes it like wandering the map, trying to figure out where I'm going, like more friendly, because it's just like, you know, 4 idiots like arguing about whether they've taken a wrong turn somewhere or something. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, we should have gone left like 4 miles back. That's the one way it isn't accessible, is I have had to use a guide several times because I just do not know how to get places. They do not tell you. They're like, go to this place. I'm like, great. Where? And I like check the quest listing and there's nothing, like no like cardinal directions or anything. So rather than wander aimlessly around the map for hours, I will just pull up a guide and be like, where is Shibuya? But I hopefully should be done with it. Well, I will be done with it before next time. But, yeah, fun game. I will, maybe near the end of the year, I'll go back and play Apocalypse, the sequel. So
there you go.
I don't think I'll replay it to get another ending. At least not at this point. I know there is a New Game Plus feature that will make it faster, but neutral is just so obtuse to get. I looked up like ending requirements at some point, and it's like you have a scale of alignment from -100 to 100. I might have said this last time. And to get the neutral ending at the time that the ending triggers, you have to be between -8 and 8. So we have a 16-point threshold on a 200-point scale. That you really have to use a guide and be like, okay, how much does this response affect my alignment and stuff like that. Yeah. Check in with me next time and I'll tell you about my cool party with Lucifer to destroy the world or something. I don't know.
Can't wait. Get hyped.
Get hyped.
Well, my last game, is Pokemon Legends Arceus. I think I said on the show last, 6 weeks that I was like, oh, this is a game that I could get too into. And while my gaming time over the course of the past 6 weeks has been lower than usual, I do think that I got more into Arceus than I thought that I would. And that's partially because Clickbait Boyfriend has gotten very into it as well, and so we're just like both playing it. But yeah, that number go up feel. Even though I know that it's like, this is dumb. Why do I care that I'm trying to get research level 10 for these Pokemon? I'm like, I do care. I want to get to research level 10 for these Pokemon. So I've just unlocked, like I'm in like the 4th area. I've just unlocked the Sneasler, so I can climb up. It can put me in its little basket, and I can climb up stuff. That's pretty underwhelming, I'm gonna be honest, because I've already been able to jump up cliffs just by kind of Skyrim brute forcing it on my deer. Yeah. My wire deer. You just kind of jump and jump and jump until it lets you up. But glad to have my little fishy guy to surf around on now too. That was also this 6 weeks unlock. So that's been fun to like go sailing around. I don't really like how the water stuff works because there's no sneak. Which, like, I don't really know how you would sneak when you're riding, like, a giant fish.
Yeah.
But I really like to sneak up on Pokemon and catch them. And I do feel like in the water, a lot of your tools for that kind of disappear.
It does feel like maybe they could have done something with, like, underwater.
Yeah.
But
that would have been tough to animate, though.
Yeah.
Although, not that you would even really have had to, like... You probably just could have, like, you or Bubbles under the water or something like that. And you can, like, only hold your breath so long. Anyway, I won't brainstorm too many things here. But yeah, I probably should be advancing the story faster because I understand that there is a, like, highly robust post-game and, like, might as well just fly through the kind of, like, whatever story. But I do like to just kind of, like, run around the regions and be like, what Pokemon have I not caught? Or let's make this Pokemon use a strong style move twice so I can hit level 10. Or whatever with that. The side quests are similarly, like, I don't know, they're fine. It's nice that we have them. Again, I like checking things off of lists, so I don't mind going around and catching different Combees around so you can taste the honey. Or... leveling up Magikarp or any of those things. But yeah, I mean, my continued impression of the game is like, oh, like once again, like all Pokemon games, the hook of it is so strong that the game actually doesn't need to be very good because it's just like, number go up, catch them all.
Yeah.
Right? And pretty mindless, and that's been valuable to me over the course of this past month and a half to have this like pretty mindless game where I can go in and feel like I'm making progress. I feel like I say this about some game like every 6-week episode, but especially this 6 weeks. But yeah, it just continues to be like, oh, this is not that good. Like I'm enjoying it a lot, But I hope that they continue to refine this model, even in the slow and clunky way that they will be able to because of the release schedule that they're on there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it continuing to be refined just a little bit would be good. Because it is frustrating. It's like, I just got to this new area, and, like, I have finally found the new Pokemon, but it's like, why is there any overlap in Pokemon that you see between the areas? Like, why are there these, like, Parises everywhere that I got to level 10 in, like, the first region at all the time? It's just like, I just don't, like, by the time I've gotten here, if I'm playing this game at all, whatever, right, like, at all thoroughly, or not even at all thoroughly, just at all, like, catching Pokemon as I go, I just feel like there's too much repeat. And I guess that's how animals are, and maybe it's realistic, but I don't feel like it's necessarily, like, make such a big deal out of, like, it's a new biome. And it's like, really? Because that's the exact same Pokemon right over there that I've just seen a million of.
Maybe they could have done something with, like, colors.
They have some of that. There are some regional variations in different areas, and that's cool. That's fun. But not quite enough. And yeah, I mean, to be fair, I kind of refuse to engage with the more complex items that I could be using. I'm just like, if I can't sneak up on it, then I'll fight it. And I know I could be using, like, food things and, like, stun grenades. Not stun grenades.
Essentially, though. I get it.
Like, basically. And, like, smoke bombs and stuff. And I know that's an option, but the game continues to just feel like, I don't know. Like, ultimately, you can battle the Pokemon, too.
Yeah.
And catch it that way. And, yeah, you do have a few, like, Abra-type Pokemon that it's like, no, you really do need to sneak up on it. But it's just not, you know, like, it's not so hard to sneak up on a Pokemon most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, why would I spend a bunch of time crafting, like, food for them? I am much better at the boss fights than Click Boyfriend is.
Good.
I'll throw that out there. He always, like, dies and starts midway through, and dies and starts midway through, and I have not had to do that, so.
Good.
Hold that over his head a little bit.
Yeah.
But still enjoying it, would still recommend, but, yeah, it's just like, like, I am continuing to enjoy it, like, despite all of the things about it that are just, like, not quite as good as they really should be, because the hook is so good. It's true. They really don't need to make better games, because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Fire Emblem.
Yeah. Yeah, I got and have been playing Fire Emblem Three Hopes, the Warriors Musou spin-off of Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Woo-woo.
It's fun. It does mostly just make me want to play Three Houses again, if I'm being honest. Or for there to be a new actual Fire Emblem, mostly, you know. But I am still, you know, enjoying it. It has Fire Emblem characters, but it's not a Fire Emblem game, right? It's a Musou game, which is inherently less fun to me than the tactics. But other than that, it's pretty much the Fire Emblem you've come to expect. So I did Blue Lions. They were my first for Three Houses. Also for this one, I feel like when I finish it, I will probably put it down for a while before I play the other routes. As opposed to Three Houses where I just blasted through all of them. But it's interesting. It sort of blasts through the academy phase by making, like, certain plot changes that completely change, like, the trajectory of things. Like, they find out that Tomas is the librarian is evil in, like, the second chapter, right?
Oh, whoa. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you rescue, like, Monica, who's that student that was secretly someone else also during the academy phase. So it just sort of skips to because all those plans are changed, Edelgard's like, okay, I guess it's wartime. I guess we're going to war now. And there's, there's a bunch of machinations in the kingdom as well, so Dmitri has to go back and kill his uncle, who's been, like, the regent until he comes of age, and take the crown sooner, so everything sort of accelerates until, like, the war is in full swing, like, within 2 years, as opposed to, you know, the 5-year gap where Byleth is asleep in the original game. It's very refreshing that Shez is voiced. Byleth is also voiced. They both talk normally, like normal people, which is very nice. I do not miss the silent Byleth, the silent protagonist of Three Houses.
Yeah.
I don't think, it's very hard for me to like a silent protagonist, I think. And it's just very nice. Shez is very dumb. She's Simone in my game, but I'm just using the canon name. Sometimes the dialogue options are like, you like nod like you understand. You know? While she's learning how to use this new power, she has this little being called Arvel in her head, who's like a boy version of Sothis, I guess, but seems to be more tied to like the evil, those who slither people in some way, although Arvel doesn't seem to know what's going on either. But while they're figuring out like her new power, which is just like a big power boost and a cool sword, she like throws herself off cliffs 5 times. And Arvel's like, why did you do why are you doing that? It's just for toughness, you know?
Yeah, sure.
It's just like, I guess I could make this now. Let's give it a shot. That sort of attitude, not like anything dark. And it also, because the academy skips so fast, all of the supports, of which there are less, but they're still there, are set post-academy phase, which means all of them can be sort of post-character growth, I guess, as opposed to the original, where you had to sort of balance you could get some that were meant pre-time skip, post-time skip. Always very funny in Three Houses when Dmitri had a support that could have been unlocked pre-time skip because he has different voices.
Yeah.
Very funny to hear naive, innocent boy voice coming out of eye-patched lion man. But there's none of that in this one. It's also... so the reason I liked Blue Lines best in Three Houses was, 1, partially probably because I played them first. But 2, because it had the least to do with any of, like, the lore or history or politicking of the stuff, which I felt like was the weakest content in Three Houses. Like, there was, like, weird social media stuff of, like, mapping the leaders onto, like, real political alignments, like, that makes any sense whatsoever. Besides, like, all of their politics suck, to be perfectly honest.
Well, maybe that's realistic to map.
They're all very vague and not very good, so I feel like doing anything with that is silly. But, so, you know that tweet that's like, you know, I think monarchy is bad, and the therapist is like, yeah, so do we all, and it's like, but I love it when the chosen king comes to reclaim his throne, and therapist like, yeah, who doesn't? That's the Blue Lions route, essentially. Yeah. It's entirely character focused. But this one has a lot more, like, politics going on, which is sort of a bummer, because it's not like it's not interesting, I just don't find it particularly interesting. So the way Fargus is right now is, like, there's a somewhat desire to change things, right? They're like, man, it sure would be nice if we could change the social structure, but we don't have food. We're taking in refugees despite not having food. And, like, half of our nobility is rebelling / always on the brink of a rebellion. And if we were to change social structure, I think that it would just devolve into full civil war throughout the whole kingdom while everybody's starving. And also their top priority is, like, the state of Dusker, which prior to the events of the game, like, they, like, conquered and destroyed over, like, a misunderstanding over who killed the previous king. So, like, the main focus of some of this is, like, Oh boy, reparations. So it's interesting in that it's like a whole big mess. But it feels like it's losing some of like the character focus that I thought made the original route interesting, I guess. I also like I'm sure it's not intended to be written like this, but I did like these two supports in a row, and it was really funny of like Sylvain talking to Dimitri about why like they can't make sweeping changes right now because, you know, everything would devolve into civil war, so they can't be like abolishing the nobility or anything like that. Right. And then he has a support with Shez where he's like, I'm gonna make guns and give them to the civilians. I'm like, what? Sylvain, are you trying to arm the populace to rise against you? Behind, no. Like, on the down low? Like, are you doing this on purpose?
That's a lot.
It's like, these things could even stand against crest weapons. I'm like, Sylvain.
What are you doing?
Are you a rebel leader in the background?
Apparently.
So I also like, because there's less supports and because they're all post-time skip, some of them can be dependent on each other. Like, I had to trigger Sylvain and Annette's before I could trigger Felix and Annette's, because Sylvain helps Annette write a song in that one that is then referenced in her conversation with Felix. Which is just, it's charming when that happens, when they can be like, oh, like, this happened previously in a previous conversation, and so we can bring it up in this conversation, because there's few enough that we can sort of manage those dependencies in this one. All the supports have been pretty charming in this one, I think.
Good. That's as it should be.
Yeah. I also haven't had to murder anybody yet. I've been able to recruit everyone I've come across so far, but it's coming. I can feel the murder coming. I'm very scared.
Murder.
Yeah, that's my 3 hopes support. Gameplay's what you'd expect. You're slamming buttons while murdering people. I find it really hard to get S ranks because it's super hard to balance. Like, you have to get S on like time, damage taken, and enemies killed. And I find it really hard to balance enemies killed versus time completion sometimes.
I remember that being a thing in the last one, too, a little bit.
Yeah, like, a lot of the times it's because I complete the missions too fast, and so I didn't kill enough enemies to get an S rank on that. So it's very frustrating going through things like, I did so well, and then I got, like, a B on enemies killed. It's like, oh, I didn't do enough murder. But I'm not trying to S-rank everything. I think I would go insane.
Well, I'm looking forward to playing this one, sometime near the end of the year.
Well, you can play a little bit with me. We can try the 2-player mode when we're home.
Excellent. Good idea.
I'll let you play Felix.
Great. I appreciate that.
He's the most fun. His special ability just gives him like a 2x speed boost. So he just has after images. It's very funny.
I can't wait. Okay. That's going to run great in 2-player mode, I'm sure. Well, any closing Fire Emblem thoughts?
No, that's it. We're facing down Edelgard next, so I'm curious as to what's going to happen with that.
Probably murder.
Maybe. I don't know, though.
Well, listeners, thanks for tuning in for another episode of Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
If you enjoyed the show, you should follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Talk This Podcast. You can also visit our website, www.talkthispodcast.com, where you can read all about the show, check out the games that are in the hat, and read our blog, featuring Emma's thoughts on Final Fantasy XIII, right? That was a monthly blog. And Split Screen and Clickbait Boyfriend. But most importantly, if you enjoy the show, you should subscribe. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, Pandora Podcasts, online and on the app, Overcast, Pocket Casts, anywhere that you can find podcasts, wherever you found the podcast today. Subscribe to Talk This. So you never miss an episode every Sunday. Next week, we're back to old game, new game episode.
Yep.
I ceased to form memories, so I don't even remember.
Rayman and Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker saga.
Right. So look forward to that. A little lighter than our stuff has been recently, I think.
Yeah.
So lots of Legos, lots of Rayman, good stuff. And then in 2 weeks, it'll be another side quest, and the cycle continues. So I think that's it for this week's show. Emma, do you have a good sign-off?
This week, I hope that you do an acceptable amount of murder.
S rank.